Aussie Swiss then. Aussie, another commodity currency. The Aussie has been struggling. If we get more bearish news out of China, the Aussie is very susceptible, very sensitive to Chinese news. Particularly bad news would not be very helpful to the Australian dollar, because they are their infrastructure is very much set up to accommodate Chinese industrial demand. That aside, you see it looks pretty similar to the CAD Swiss. The Aussie, they've been talking about certainly, never mind the increase in stopping interest rate increases in Australia, but indeed cutting the interest rates, and if we get more, if there's more speculation or assumptions or market attitude to support that, then this is going to harm the Aussie. That we don't trade off the news. If we get receipt of negative Aussie news, we do not execute until our technical point instructs us to do so. Okay, now on the short side, again, same story. Our bias is to the downside. Here we're trending. There's no sign of a structural failure yet, so our bias is still in the direction of the prevailing trend, which is down. In fact, in this Aussie Swiss, I think it's actually a better trend. It's actually in the CAD Swiss. We made at this point a slightly higher low. So the Aussie Swiss is actually a truer. It's actually a truer trend if you're looking at it specifically. The 85.62 is there's your momentum low. In the downtrend, get a good sell-off from there. Here's the pullback. We've now just started rolling over a little bit. The structural long here. Okay, this is a long point perhaps. The structural long is the 85.62. For a position trade, for to hold a position for any amount of time, that's going to be your safest trade. If we move down here and fail to make a new low, the 84.43 becomes your structural failure point. Okay, so if we move down here, through the 80.91, we fail to make a new low, the structure is the 84.43. So at the moment we haven't had enough here to prove it. So as we come to the market here, the structural long, the safest structural long is 85.62, and the structural short is, again, like the CAD Swiss, last week's low, which is 80.91. For the same reasons, we go to the 200 tick, see what we've got. So this is nice and clear. You see, I actually think, although the CAD technically has been a little bit weaker than the Aussie of late, the Aussie, I prefer the picture in the Aussie Swiss. It's cleaner. It's a cleaner chart here. When we get to the 200 tick, it's much cleaner. This is a lovely, for your, for a day trading setup, it's you can't argue with that. This is consolidation, clearly bound by the levels to the downside, these two and these two. So we don't want to get caught up in this price action in between these 2 points. So your long point, very clear there, 82.63. That's your long. Again, if you're going long there, you do not want to give it too much room to move back into this revert back into the mean of this range. So the 82.63 long, you're going to have your stop at 82.40. So you're going to have your stop, 20 pips the other side of that level. 82.63 the long, 82.40 the stop, and on the downside you're using the daily, the 1 day low, which has been met back at this point. When you have a level like this, which is met, and we come back to it, what's happening here is buyers are coming in to push it back up to the high. When these buyers come in, that means when we move back below this point, the buyers here and here have to get out. If you're long and you have to get out of position, you have to sell just to go flat. So at this point here, this daily low, our expectation is for a reaction in the price to the downside, because the longs that we've seen buy here and here have to get out, and that should cause a reaction in the market. So the short point is 81.38, as you can see by the red line, and your short stop will be 81.88, because we've got a 2 day low here. So your stop wants to be, you might as well accommodate another level within the stop, so your stop wants to be 81.88, the short stop, so the 2 day low. Okay, that's a nice setup. Of course, our bias certainly is to the downside. Okay, it's the Aussie Swiss then.